That's why they
Yeah. Now that's a big deal. Can you hold this thing for me?
Yeah.
I went to him and beefed about arbitrary close down of Nevada test site.
And if you'll roll, I'll start narration. Here comes the truck. Now, this is the armored truck that will carry Lee Harold Oswald from the basement here of Dallas Police Headquarters downtown to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office and the Dallas County Jail. Strict security precautions have been exercised from the very beginning and have been even increased this morning as fear arises and grows stronger that someone may attempt to take the life of the man accused of murdering the President of the United States. Inside the basement here at Dallas Police Headquarters, guards are stationed at points all across the inside of the basement. All incoming cars throughout the morning have been carefully checked. Even the police vehicles have been searched inside the trunk and inside the rear compartments of paddy wagons that have entered here in the basement. Officers have checked every vehicle coming in, and no one who is not a member of the press and not able to show identification can enter the basement. The basement is empty except for a large gathering of reporters who are now watching the truck being moved into position. Outside the building, a large force of heavily armed police have kept a constant ring around Dallas City Hall, and a comparatively small group of spectators are now gathered across from the basement entrance from which the armored car will depart. Security precautions have been tightened more and more as the morning has worn on. According to the people in the jail office, Oswald spent a restful night and got perhaps a good night's sleep. They said that he did rest well and was awakened a short while ago. From here to Dallas County Sheriff's Office and the jail there, a heavy police escort will accompany the armored car in which Lee Harold Oswald will be riding. Jail office to the armored vehicle will be clear. Armed guards are stationed throughout Dallas City Hall and the police headquarters. There is a ring of armed policemen outside, some carrying riot guns, some carrying riot guns and handguns as well. A number of police vehicles are lined up further to our rear here in the basement and are preparing to depart along with the armored vehicle. The car is being backed slowly down the ramp here into the basement. Apparently they're having some difficulty in clearance. This is an armored truck from the Dallas County Sheriff's Department, and apparently the clearance is going to be a little bit high. It's difficult from our vantage point here to see exactly what trouble the officers are having. People still are wondering exactly when Oswald will come down, and although from yesterday morning it has been known that Oswald would be transferred from the Dallas City Jail to the Dallas County Jail, no one has known exactly when the transfer would take place. It was only known that it would take place when full preliminary questioning had been completed by the office of Dallas Homicide Captain Will Fritz. Far into the night last night, reporters kept their vigil here at Dallas City Hall, and only after the announcement came shortly before 10 o'clock Central Standard Time was it known that Oswald would be moved today. This is Nelson Benton.
Where's our camera? All right. Where's the floor manager? What? Excuse me, Tom. Where's our floor manager? Will you tell me what they want from me here, please? This is Benton. Yeah. This is Benton. Go ahead. You don't know what they want from here yet. Lee, I would like, if it's all right, if they want a situation, let me tell them we'd like to start where I can see both monitors. You can take this scene down here first, then you can take the exterior, and I'll walk in the camera before I get through with it, okay? Okay, I'll come up there and tell you about it. Thank you. I don't understand what they want. I'm going to have to go back. Okay. All right, be talking just about like this. Have they given you any idea of what they want right now yet?
I think the situation pieces out. It looks like it might be too imminent.
Well,
If they want a situation, tell them we'll start it. I'll be off. We'll start with this shot.
well, if you want, I can get on your on this one. Or if you want, I can start up in front of the armored car, and you can just listen to what I'm talking about and use this camera. But the main thing is that when he actually leaves, I want to be here where I can see him. Yeah.
If you talking here.
Right. And once he gets in the van, I'll go out there so that once he pulls away, you can pick me up, both video and audio.
There'll be not a lot of talk in here. You'll probably speak.
It's all right. It's all right.
All right.
Well, do you want me to just do it out there?
Whichever you think you want to do it.
Please.
I think you should do a lot better than you can see. Looking out there, he's pat down and like he's telling what's going on.
If they want a situation, I'll go out and stand by the truck.
Why don't you do it right here?
All right.
Do you want to do the audio over him getting in?
No. If he's getting in, let Huffaker try to grab him. Get anything he can. If I see microphones in his face down there, I'm going to shut up. And you take audio from down there until he's in the truck.
Well, we'll speed both of them.
Very good.
Yeah, I'll get them. See, we've got to keep the speaker off so we don't get feedback. Unfortunately, the audio man's the only guy there that's hearing you. I'll follow.
But there's no point in my trying to get where I can be seen. I'd rather see what's going on. Once the truck is gone, I'll keep talking and going out to the camera.
I'll try to get you audio.
If you can get me.
Huh?
there's no way I can ask the guy any questions. Yeah, well, but I'd like to pick up the natural audio from down there. Pick up natural sound from down there. All right, we got a little activity down there. I don't know what it is. Which is that's the line. All right.
Yeah, you see
This is the news audio only. Don't close the door. I'm going to leave eventually. Right. Just tell him to get the mic.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Can I throw it? I just throw it to the courthouse. Ready to go. Is that right? Do I throw it to the courthouse on my own discretion?
Get over there and try. Get over there and try.
Do they know who's at the courthouse?
Okay, don't forget it. Do it quick.
This is the basement floor of the Dallas City Hall, and that's a scuffle on the basement floor. It seems to concern photographers.
He has been shot. Oswald has been shot.
Lee Oswald.
Oswald has been
we're
shot.
going to switch now.
Police are pulling.
We're going to switch now to Bob Hofhacker down in the basement of the courthouse, who is close to the scene. Go ahead, Bob.
Lee Harold Oswald has been shot.
All right, I'm going outside.
They're cooperating, Dick. They're all cooperating. Anyone recognize the we don't know.
All right, we're switching now. We're still looking at the basement entrance from the jail, from the Houston County Jail. And we're going to try to bring in Bob Hoffaker of KRLD. Can you hear us down there, Bob? Can you give us an account of what happened?
Lee Harold Oswald has been shot. We saw no one fire the shot, only a blast from some bullet here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Oswald fell to the concrete in front of our eyes and immediately was covered by police officers who took him quickly, immediately, instantly from our sight. Police have ringed the inside and no one is allowed to leave. Everyone is being held in place, and police officers are not even allowing anyone to move. It is mass confusion. Police are holding everyone in place, and no one is... Pardon me. An ambulance is being ready to take Oswald away. Would you please get off? Just a moment.
Now this is the exterior of the... Now this is the exterior of the Dallas City Hall. We're watching this policeman guarding the door.
I saw a man there.
Now we're back downstairs.
Detective. He was a stocky guy, well dressed, with a hat he had on.
Where did he go?
Brown hat up. I don't know if I think his coat was brown and his hat was.
Where did
black.
he go, Pierre?
Well, he was here. He just shot there. He just put the gun there. I saw the flash on the black sweater. Oh yeah, right in the back. And the guy. Oh, wait, did you see his gun? Yeah. Right here. I mean, I saw the flash on the black sweater. That's what I remember. The flash. The both were crouching. No, I saw him there. He was in the group of men right here.
Masquerading as one of us or what?
I thought he was one of the detectives. You know, he had a hat and stocky was well dressed. That's what I remember.
Had you seen him before?
I think he had his hat.
There were none of us in this
Or
area.
maybe he flew up. I don't know because I look at the flash.
There were no reporters in this area.
What? No. The trouble is I got distracted. I can see.
All right, now that's the situation here.
The situation is now that Lee Harold Oswald has been shot. The man who saw the shot fired said it was fired by a man wearing a black hat, a brown coat, a man that everyone down here thought was a Secret Service agent. The Oswald was moved immediately from the area. No one knows at this time where Lee Harold Oswald is. At the present time, word is that an ambulance is being ready to take Oswald away. We can hear sirens outside, and an ambulance apparently is moving down now into the basement. Here comes the ambulance, and Oswald will be removed now. The ambulance is being pulled up in front of us here.
It is almost unbelievable.
Here, someone has...
Get back. Back. Okay, just get low. Okay.
Pat, can you move? Okay. Pat, move just a little to your left.
We can see now that police are
There you
hemming
go.
off
There you go,
newsmen
boy.
in the basement
Okay.
of Dallas City Hall, hemming them off so that Lee Oswald can be taken to an ambulance, which was just brought into the basement of the City Hall. We're switching now to Bob Huffaker downstairs.
Oswald will be moved quickly outside, and the only word so far is that the shot came from a man wearing a black hat and a coat. Here comes Oswald. He is ashen and unconscious at this time, now being moved in. He's not moving. He's in the ambulance now. The attendants, police are quickly climbing in. They're now having to remove the armored truck from the head of the basement entrance here. And the ambulance is waiting for the attendants to move the armored truck, which...
This is the armored truck on the outside of the Dallas Police Department. It's being moved out onto Commerce Street, and now the ambulance is coming out. The ambulance with Lee Harvey Oswald, who was shot just a few minutes ago as he was being transferred to the was planning to be transferred from the city jail to the county courthouse. Now let's go back to Harry Reasoner in New York.
Received emergency treatment. When Oswald left, his face was ashen. He was not moving. He lay on... Captain?
What do you look like?
Captain, do they have
what
the
is
man?
it?
Do they have him in there, Captain?
No one walks.
The man is now in there, according to Captain C.O. Arnett, we just talked with here. Captain.
With the identification, your press identification, so forth, you won't come through the doors, you may now.
Okay, sir. Captain Arnett, he actually is now inside there. Did they have the gun?
He's in the cell.
He's in the cell, and did they get the gun? They did get the gun. What kind was it? Do you know?
No, I don't.
And he was known locally, is that correct?
I think so.
Are you prepared at this time to say his name?
No.
Okay, sir. The situation is mass confusion here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters, where Lee Harold Oswald, the man accused of assassinating the President of the United States, has just sustained a bullet wound injury by a man whom everyone down here thought was a member of the Secret Service. The man is now high above us in a cell of Dallas Police Headquarters. They do have the gun. No one says what kind it is as yet. However, Lee Harold Oswald is now in an ambulance speeding on his way to Dallas Parkland Hospital for emergency treatment. Only 2 days ago, the situation in Dallas was extra precaution to ensure the safety of the President of the United States. And today, it was the precaution to ensure the safety of the man accused of his murder, Lee Harold Oswald, the 24-year-old ex-Marine who is now on his way to Parkland Hospital. Further word will be coming from inside just as soon as we can get information on where this man is, who the man is, who fired the shot that struck Oswald before our very eyes. We'll have the information from then. Outside, there is still a ring of police officers continuing to encircle Dallas Police Headquarters. And exactly what is happening on the inside of that room, we don't know. Captain
We're standing
C.O.
now
Arnett,
outside the city police department of Dallas, where Lee Harvey Oswald was shot a few moments ago. There's a law official out of our camera range who we're going to try to get what's being said. Okay, newsmen are being allowed down into the basement now. Those on the outside of the building were kept outside by police, and this discussion here has just been over whether they're to be allowed inside. The information that we've been able to get so far is that Lee Harvey Oswald, as he was about to be transferred from here at the Dallas City Jail, came down to the basement, was headed toward an armored car that was to take him to the county jail. He was shot. We do not know who shot him. However, the man who shot him, the word from down here is that he has been arrested. The weapon that was used to shoot him, the police have, and now the investigation is going on somewhere probably up on either the third or fourth floor of the Dallas City Police Department. I think Bob Huffacker is down where the shooting occurred. We'll see if we can pull him in now. Bob Huffacker, if you have anything, would you please come in from down in the basement of the City Hall from the spot? I think Bob Huffacker is down where the shooting occurred. We'll see if we can pull him in now. Bob Huffacker, if you have anything, would you please come in from down in the basement of the City Hall from the spot?
No, he made a straight dive for him, but he was from behind and the left of me from somewhere. Because I was trying to get them and get that car back down here because they had the car blocked here and they had it here. And as I tried to get them back, he broke through from behind me somewhere.
What so far has been done with the man that you took into custody?
Tell you. I've been trying to keep the mob out of the way.
You have a man in custody, sir?
No,
You do have a man in custody who fired the shot?
Oh, yes, sir.
Did you see him fire the shots?
No.
And how many people thus far have said that they did see the actual
I couldn't tell you a thing about it
shot
because I
fired?
didn't see it. I was trying to get the press out of the way so we could get to the car.
Do you have the name of the suspect?
Yes. There's the deputy chief right over there. See if you can-
Okay.
Could you please tell me again, sir, what happened? I'm sorry, I just arrived.
Well, I can't tell you.
Pat, did you see that man fire the shot?
I didn't see him as he fired it. At the moment the shot was fired, I turned around. I did see the smoke from the gun. It was that instant.
Did you see the gun in his hand?
No, I didn't.
This is Sergeant Patrick Dean of the Dallas Police Department who was standing beside us. Pat, you saw the smoke from the gun.
Yes.
And did you see the man?
Yes.
What did he look like to you, Pat?
Well, he was a man dressed in a suit. Would appear as one of the pressmen. However, I was at the top of the ramp, Bob, waiting at the armored car that we were supposed to take into the county jail in.
Right.
Now, that's from that location is when I saw the smoke from the gun. As far as identifying him at that time, at that distance, I couldn't.
Right. I know you were.
We happened to be to Oswald.
He was taken back into the jail office. An ambulance was called, and he is at the hospital now.
Where was he?
He had a wound in his lower left abdomen. As far as I could tell, it was the only one. I think there was only one shot that was fired.
It appeared, right, there was only one shot. It was right here. But, Pat, you say it was in his lower left abdomen.
Yes, sir.
He was unconscious inside?
Yes, he was.
Does he look like he's dying?
I wouldn't want to say.
Did you hear anything he said? Did he say anything? He punched himself, and did he say anything?
Are you talking about Oswald? Or...
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He was
What
unconscious.
about the man? Did he run at all, or what happened?
No, he was immediately subdued by the officers at the time he fired the shot.
How many shots?
Just one shot. Now then, thus far, Pat, is the man upstairs in the cell?
As far as I know, he's either in the jail or at Captain Fritz's office. I imagine he'd probably be in jail.
Do you know this subject? Do you know him? Have you seen him before?
Yes, I do.
Is he from Dallas?
Yes.
He is.
I couldn't tell you.
I know you can't release the name now, but do you know what kind of business he happens to be in?
Bob, I wouldn't want to say.
Right. Okay.
Did he have to be disarmed or did he give up?
We had to disarm him.
Did he struggle?
As much as he could, yes, but he was...
The struggle completely
he was
filled
mumbling.
his
I couldn't hear. I couldn't understand what he did say.
Now, do you
Was
know...
it a pistol that he had? Did he
No,
have a
Oswald
pistol?
didn't.
What?
Now,
Did he have a pistol?
Yes,
do you
it
know
was a
what
pistol.
kind of pistol he was
No,
carrying?
Bob, I never saw the pistol itself. Some other, I think, Officer Graves had got the gun immediately after he fired the shot.
He was in a
civilian clothes.
Yes.
Try to get away?
No, he was immediately subdued by the officers.
He wouldn't have had a chance to get
No,
away.
sir.
How many
What
shots
did
were fired?
Just one
One.
shot.
Did
What
you see?
was Oswald wearing? Do you remember when he came out?
I didn't pay too much attention.
Did you know the man? Did you see the man before?
Yes, he did. Did
yes.
you...
You saw his face
Yes, sir.
and you knew him.
Yes, sir.
Pat, he is a resident of Dallas, is he not?
Yes, sir.
Would you
And that's
say
all
he
I'd
was
want to
about
say about the
3
man
feet
inside.
away when his shot was fired, about 3 feet away from Oswald? It looked like that about
We're questioning Officer Patrick Dean of the Dallas Police Department, who was standing beside me when the shot was fired here in the basement as Lee Harold Oswald was almost ready to go to Dallas County Jail.
I came immediately down the ramp to assist the officers.
Officer, do you know this man personally?
Yes.
In the line of duty or in another way?
Sir, I wouldn't want to say.
But he is known to you as a police officer.
And not as a police officer?
That is, you as a police
I
officer
see.
know him. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was he connected in any way with this?
I don't know.
Had you seen him here in the building before the shot was fired?
No, sir.
Pat, could you outline briefly some of the security precautions that were taken immediately before this happened?
Yes, sir. We thoroughly searched the basement. We had searched even the cars up on top of the pipes and things that a person might conceal himself. There was about 15 to 20 men that had searched this place prior to 30 minutes. In fact, searched it twice, about an hour before and then 30 minutes before.
How many officers did you have outside, approximately, would you say?
About 20.
About 20
uniformed
officers outside the building, and they are armed with riot guns, pistols, and all kinds of things.
Yes, sir. Some few of them are.
And you were then ready?
In here?
No, sir. Today, no, sir.
Not today. Is there anything else that you possibly might tell us about him, Pat? I know that at the present time you're bound and can't say very much, but you have said that he is from Dallas and that you do know this subject and have seen him before.
Yes, sir, I do know.
Is there anything that you could say about him further than the fact that he is a resident of Dallas, the man who shot Oswald? to shed some more light on it.
Well, Bob, that would be all I'd want to say, really.
I'm sure that's the case. Now, at present, what in the way of release is going on inside? How soon do you think we're going to be able to know who this man is?
Well, the information would have to come from Captain Fritz's office.
Now, Captain Fritz came out of this door just a few steps ahead of Oswald. Do you know where he is at present?
No, sir, I don't.
Right. Captain Will Fritz is the master interrogator who was carrying on the interrogation yesterday.
Precautions have been taken. Were there
Merely
some threatening phone calls during the night that there might be some effort to take?
I couldn't answer that. I don't know.
Have you heard that?
This is the case here in the basement of Dallas City Hall. The information is that the man who shot Lee Harold Oswald was a resident of Dallas. He was a man known to Dallas police. At present, he is high above us in a cell where he was taken only moments after the shot was fired. The shot was fired directly before our eyes, and we saw Lee Harold Oswald crumple and then be carried away quickly to Parkland Hospital by an ambulance. This is Bob Huffaker in the basement of Dallas City Hall. Now outside to Nelson Benton.
We made a very massive effort through the total cooperation of the federal investigating authorities and local authorities to interrogate everybody that we could find who allegedly had any information concerning Oswald's appearance or time that he spent in New Orleans. However, there's always a possibility in a criminal investigation that some evidence wasn't turned up, and if this is the case this time, I sincerely hope and trust that the law enforcement officials in New Orleans will fully cooperate with the Attorney General.
Congressman, to your knowledge, was the possibility of a conspiracy in New Orleans ever even mentioned during the investigation?
Oh, yes. The Warren Commission made a tremendous effort to interrogate every possible individual who allegedly had any connection with the assassination. We thoroughly investigated all aspects of Oswald's period of time in New Orleans. There was never any failure to do anything and everything we could to look into this aspect of Oswald's life.
Do you think the Warren Commission report is wrong?
Well, of course, wrong has a lot of connotations. I think the Warren report did not pretend to say exactly what happened. I think if their conclusion was, the conclusion of the Warren Commission was, that Lee Harvey Oswald went into this project unaided and without the assistance and help of other persons, then I would say that I think that the Warren Commission was wrong.
Now, Mr. Garrison, you have the Warren Commission, you have the FBI, you have the Secret Service, CIA, State Department, Defense Department, thousands of interviews, hundreds of witnesses. How could they all be wrong?
Well, of course, first of all, let me remind you of the old saying that one man with the truth constitutes a majority. The point being that the volume, the number of individuals investigating can be irrelevant. But even more pertinent, I think, is the fact that all of this investigative machinery lacked an evaluation mechanism. There was at no point any effective evaluation function being exercised. The FBI, which is unquestionably one of the finest fact-gathering agencies in the world, if not the very best, has never pretended to have machinery set up for evaluation. They're not geared for it in the old Scotland Yard tradition. They have other functions, so that they did not have evaluation machinery, nor did they pretend to. So, in effect, they sent thousands of boxes of material to be digested further up the line. On the other hand, the Warren Commission itself, the way it was constituted, was also left without evaluation machinery. In my judgment, the men on the Warren Commission are all honorable men, to say the least, men of character and devotion to their country. But they were left without the assistance of evaluation machinery, a team of evaluators, so that nowhere in the picture was there effective evaluation. Our team is so small that, in contrast, it is almost humorous. But we have put a heavy premium on evaluation, and as a result, I think we made quite a bit of progress. What started out as a routine investigation of possible local involvement of the assassination of President Kennedy has uncovered certain facts which we consider extremely interesting. So I would say that the investigation is no longer routine, but it is now extremely interesting, and it will continue.
Garrison, the Warren Commission said that Oswald acted alone and there was no conspiracy. Apparently you do not believe the Warren Commission's report. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe the Warren Commission was wrong and will be shown to be wrong.
Mr. Garrison, on the basis of what you've just said, then, do you feel there should be a new investigation of the slaying of President Kennedy on a level higher than yours, such as it's been suggested by some people, a new federal investigation?
Well, Ed, actually, I think that effective investigation, by that I mean imaginative investigation in which there is effective evaluation and not simply the blind collection of volumes of evidence, at every level is justified in a case like this. I would have to answer yes, except that I would hope that this time more premium would be placed on the evaluation function. But of course it would be better if more agencies cooperated and gave each other information, worked together. A matter like this justifies a number of concurrent investigations.
Mr. Garrison, has it always been your belief that the Warren Commission was inaccurate?
No. As a matter of fact, I think I accepted the Warren report without question until last fall, last November, when out of curiosity I began reading and then studying this case, and then I went into the 26 volumes of the Warren report, realized there were some questions. Then we started investigating here, and then we found that the Warren Commission was wrong.
Expand just a little bit on your discussions about lack of cooperation between your office and the federal government and how they're standing in your way.
Oh, I have no complaints. You can hardly really expect these federal agencies that are involved with concealment or fundamental information about the assassination to cooperate with us. I don't expect it to be like expecting a man who's just robbed a bank to cooperate with us in an investigation of the robbery. I understand their problem. It doesn't make them right, but I really don't expect them to cooperate.
Is a willing witness and a cooperative witness?
I don't think Newsweek sort of justifies as much comment as I've made.
How do you think Mr. Bobuck eventually has really been hurt? Your investigation of the assassination has really been hurt by this lack of cooperation with the federal government.
Well, I don't want to complain about it because, again, I can't expect too much from parties in the case. But I'll say that it certainly has been a cause of delay, but as to preventing us from being successful, there's no chance in the world. I'm sure that they think they can, but they're wasting their time.
Mr. Garrison, do you think that the federal agency...
Number one, are you getting all of your witnesses to take lie detector tests, sodium pentothal, and hypnosis? Number two, how much involvement does the CIA have in this?
That's question number one. We started off with the naive intention of requiring witnesses to take these objectifying tests in order to assure ourselves that there was no question about the truth. Almost immediately, to our astonishment, we found that when we used truth serum and hypnosis, that it was used against us and we were suddenly described as monsters hypnotizing the witness. And at that point, we said, forget it. In other words, there's no use wasting our time. If they think our efforts to objectify our witness are something sinister, then we just don't have time to fool with it. So we give lie detectors now to witnesses we think are lying in the usual way that other jurisdictions do. Apparently, people are happier when you do it.
The CIA or the FBI to answer the charges that they've taken the Fifth Amendment. Do you expect them to answer these charges, in that in the past they've always remained closed-mouthed about such matters, or any matter for that matter?
I don't know, honestly, I don't know what they could say in this case, because...
do you expect them to say anything?
If you excuse the expression on television, they've been caught with their pants down. In other words, they have to know that what I'm saying is true. And this is like the picture that I pointed out last week that CIA had faked sent to the Warren Commission. Every American in this country can look in volume 16 at Exhibit 237 and see the fake picture, which is described as a picture of an unidentified man. And they can't answer because there is no answer.
Some time ago, you said in the Petroleum Club, we have solved the assassination. We know who did it. Do you still stand by that statement?
Well, there's no question about that, but we have a small problem of corralling all the evidence in order to be able to go into the courtroom. It's a standard problem for prosecutors, and we're in the evidentiary phase now, but there have been no changes at all on the evaluation we reached months ago.
Do you have enough evidence now to go to trial?
Well, if I answered that, I shouldn't be district attorney.
Are you a member of the CIA to hear this?
I'm sorry, I can't comment on plans in that way. I have to talk in generalities. I think
wouldn't it be advantageous for the grand jury to hear from Richard Holmes, the director of the CIA?
It would be advantageous if we were to hear from him, but again, I don't know what he would say.
Would they expect
you know how to get him down here?
Would they expect the same thing to happen with Mr. Holmes that happened this morning with Mr. Kennedy?
I would have to guess that, but again, there's no way for me to say in advance.
Legally, is there any possible way for you to get agents down here into Louisiana?
Well, since that is the subject coming up in court next week, I'd rather invite you to next week's show and see the answer. What do you say, Sam?
I ask you, Mr. Garrison, if you had it to do over again, would you launch another investigation?
Yes, I would have to, because once you know that something was hidden, once you know what happened, then you have no choice. But I would say that I would do it with a great deal of reluctance, because it never occurred to me that so many people would take it for granted that I would lie about such a subject. But now that I've discovered that a large segment of the American press takes it for granted that you're automatically a liar because you're elected to office, I would go in again, but I would go in with more reluctance.
Can I ask Senator Long to help you get the Senate investigation that you've called for on this?
No, I'm not going to ask the Senate to do anything. No, the thing I said the other day, to clarify that, was I hope that the American people will call on Congress to do something, because I think there should be a congressional inquiry of this collusion by government officials. But if the American people are not interested enough to call on the members of Congress, that's their business.
Do you feel you're violating the court guidelines by commenting on the case today?
You got to be kidding.
Do you feel that any kind of investigation by the Senate or Congress will come out of your investigation?
I can't really say. There's no way for me to guess.
What do you think of the treatment you're getting from the news media?
Who writes your questions? Your switchboard operator? That's the
The following time period has been made available to District Attorney Jim Garrison of New Orleans to reply to an NBC News program broadcast on June 19th. In that program, NBC News examined some of the methods used by Mr. Garrison in his investigation of what he charges was a conspiracy to assassinate President Kennedy. Except for the opening and closing announcements, this program has been prepared under Mr. Garrison's sole supervision. Mr. Garrison.
Tonight I'm going to talk to you about truth and about fairy tales, about justice and about injustice. In the months to follow, you're going to learn that many of the things which some of the major news agencies have been telling you are untrue. You're going to learn that although you are citizens of the United States, Information concerning the cause of the death of your president has been withheld from you. In the months to come, you will learn to your own satisfaction that President Kennedy was not killed by a lone assassin. You will learn that there has been and continues to be a concerted effort to keep you from learning these facts. And you will learn, I assure you, that what I have been trying to tell you and what I'm telling you tonight is true. As children, we become accustomed to hearing fairy tales. They're always pleasant stories, and they're comforting to hear because good always triumphs over evil. At least, this is the way it is in fairy tales. Fairy tales are not dangerous for our children and are probably even good for them up to a point. However, in the real world in which you and I must live, fairy tales are dangerous. They're dangerous because they're untrue. Anything which is untrue is dangerous. And it is all the more dangerous when the fairy tale becomes accepted as reality simply because it has an official seal of approval, or because honorable men announce that you must believe it, or because powerful elements of the press tell you that the fairy tale is true. The conclusion of the Warren Report that President Kennedy was killed by a lone assassin is a fairy tale. This does not mean that the men on the Warren Commission were aware at the time that their conclusion was totally untrue, nor does it mean necessarily that these men had any sinister motives. It does mean that the conclusion that no conspiracy existed and that Lee Oswald was the lone assassin is a fiction and a myth, and that it should be brought to an end. The people of this country don't have to be protected from the truth. This country was not built on the idea that a handful of nobles, whether located in our federal agencies in Washington, D.C., or in the news agencies in New York, should decide what was good for the people to know and what they should not know. This is a totalitarian concept which presumes that the leaders of our federal government and the men in control of the powerful press media constitute a special elite, which by virtue of their nobility and their brilliance empower them to think for the people. Personally, I would rather put my confidence in the common sense of the people of this country. The truth about the assassination of the president has been concealed from you long enough. Those forces which are fighting so hard today to tell you that they have examined the Warren Report and that everything is fine and that our investigation has uncovered nothing are not merely going to lose this fight, they have already lost it. Now let me tell you why President Kennedy was murdered and how he was murdered. I also want to give you a few examples which will show you how the conclusion reached by the Warren Commission is totally impossible. President Kennedy was assassinated by men who sought to obtain a radical change in our foreign policy, particularly with regard to Cuba. You recall that under President Kennedy, the Cold War began to thaw, and there were new signs of an effort on the part of the Soviet Union and ourselves to understand each other. On the map, this appears to be merely a large island off the coast of Florida. But for many men, it meant a good deal more than this. In 1963, a great variety of interests existed which not only desired an American-supported invasion of Castro's Cuba, but took it for granted that it was inevitable. In the minds of many men, this island represented a tremendous emotional landmark because they had steered their courses toward it for so long and with such intensity. In the fall of 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis occurred. It was followed by a pronounced new attitude towards Cuba on the part of the United States. Cuba, after this, was no longer regarded as an enemy and was no longer regarded as fair game for those men who, for one reason or another, focused their attention on this island. The new signs of understanding between Russia and the United States continued to develop. In June of 1963, President Kennedy, addressing students at the American University in Washington, told them, "We breathe the same air as the Russians. He said we should try to live together in peace on this earth. Well, at this point, some individuals transferred their hostile attention from Fidel Castro to John F. Kennedy. They planned the president's assassination, and they planned it well. The evidence indicates that he was shot at from two different directions in the rear, and also from the right front. We know that shooting was coming from two separate directions in the rear because the president and Governor Connolly were hit in the back within a split second of each other. And this necessarily had to happen with two bullets coming from two different rifles. We know that the president was being shot at from the grassy knoll area on the right front because most of the people in Dealey Plaza heard the shots coming from there. And because at least one of the president's wounds was an entry wound from the front. And because men were seen running from the grassy knoll area immediately afterwards. That's why the idea of Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone assassin of the president is a fairy tale and should be brought to an end. If you, the people of the United States, will learn the truth that the president was assassinated by men who were once connected with a Central Intelligence Agency, of course, this might reflect on the dignity of the CIA. But I happen to believe that our form of government is strong enough to survive the truth. I believe that you are entitled to the truth about how your president was shot down in the street and how it was done. Instead, some of the most powerful news agencies we have in our country have worked hard to convince you that everything is all right. They do not tell you that Lee Harvey Oswald's fingerprints were not found on the gun which was supposed to have killed the president. And they do not tell you that nitrate tests exonerated Lee Oswald from the actual shooting by showing that he had not fired a rifle that day. And they do not tell you that it was virtually impossible for Oswald to have taken his fingerprints off the gun, hidden the gun, and gone down 4 flights of stairs by the time he was seen on the 2nd floor. Above all, they do not tell you of the overwhelming eyewitness testimony that shots were coming from behind the stone wall on the grassy knoll. In a choice between official dignity and the truth, dignity was given priority, and so you have not received the full truth. This is why there continue to be hundreds of documents still hidden from your eyes and classified as secret, and some of them bear such titles as Lee Harvey Oswald's accessibility to information about the U-2, the Central Intelligence Agency's dossier on Lee Harvey Oswald, and a CIA file on Jack Ruby. You have not been told that Lee Oswald was in the employ of United States intelligence agencies, but this was the case, and so I am telling you. Why, this young uneducated man had learned to speak Russian even before he left the Marines, and there's only one way he could have learned that. Oswald had a higher security rating than his buddies in his Marine unit. During 12 hours of questioning, to give you another example, 12 hours of questioning after the assassination, there is no transcript of Oswald's statements available for you to look at. Now, it doesn't matter where you live. If somebody in your town steals a 1928 Hupmobile, what he says is written down when he's questioned. However, when the man who has just killed the President of the United States is questioned for 12 hours, no transcript is available. There's nothing for you to look at. And believe it or not, one of the explanations given is that the room was too small to include a stenographer. And here's something else. This case has more accidental fires, more burning of paper than any murder case in history. For example, when Oswald was questioned by a federal agent in August of 1963, the notes of the interview were later burned. You cannot see the notes made by Commander Holmes concerning the President's autopsy because he burned them too. One of the questioners of Lee Harvey Oswald during the 12-hour session burned his notes. And similarly, when the When the Warren Commission contacted the State Department and said, with regard to Exhibit 948, we noticed that a one-page message from the CIA containing secret information is supposed to be attached to this file, and it's missing. Would you please furnish us with a copy of this missing secret document? The answer given to the Warren Commission was that the secret message about Oswald from the CIA was accidentally destroyed while being thermofaxed. This spontaneous combustion, incidentally, occurred the day after the president's assassination. I'm not even going to bother to dignify the foolishness which Newsweek and NBC and some of the other news agencies have tried to make you believe about my office. I've been District Attorney of New Orleans for more than 5 years, and we have never had a single case reversed because of improper methods on the part of our staff. Nor do we rush to judgment on half-baked evidence. And the proof of that is the fact that in more than 5 years, not one defendant has walked out of the courtroom in a murder case with an acquittal. Nor have we lost a major case in 5 years. Then what is their game? Their game is to fool you. These people want the investigation stopped. They don't want a trial at all. Please believe me, they don't think we're wrong in our investigation. Obviously, if our investigation was as haywire as they would like to have you think, then you would not see such a coordinated barrage coming from the news centers in the East. Why are they so concerned? Why is it that they cannot wait until the trial comes in order to learn what the facts are? Why are they so anxious to have their own trials? They know very well that the witnesses they're presenting to you have not been testifying under oath, that they're not being cross-examined as they would be at a trial, and that the opportunities for a timely rebuttal by the state of Louisiana, which would exist at a trial, have not been provided in their untrue presentations. They know this. In my considered judgment, there has been an effort to prejudice in advance the potential jurors in the trial of this case. As a matter of fact, the National Broadcasting Company has already had the trial. The defendant was found innocent, and the district attorney was convicted. They announced across the nation that my methods were improper. But as their stories, one by one, turn out to be false, they do not reveal this to you, but simply search hopefully into new areas. For example, Newsweek magazine had a feature article saying that my office attempted to bribe a man named Boba. It later turned out that his story and their article was totally untrue, and the tape which Newsweek described had been altered. The police investigators in my office were found innocent of any wrongdoing in a serious investigation conducted by the police department. However, Newsweek has made virtually no mention of that. Similarly, in its recent effort to make you think that my methods are improper, NBC announced coast to coast that it had located the real Clay Bertrand, that an NBC man had talked to him. This made every newspaper in the country, and it inferred, once again, that in addition to using terrible methods, we were off on a wild goose chase. Now, when it turned out that this was a total fabrication, and the man whom NBC identified as the real Clay Bertrand hotly denied ever using the name, there was only coast-to-coast silence from NBC. NBC presented a professional burglar whom my office had just recently convicted and allowed him to make a plainly false presentation that we had tried to get him to climb into the defendant's apartment and plant evidence there. The inference, of course, was that this particular defendant was too lofty a character to participate in my nefarious schemes. However, recently, when we called him before the New Orleans grand jury so that he could tell all about our new venture into the burglary business, he took the Fifth Amendment when asked if his statement on NBC was true. Once again, this was followed by loud silence from coast to coast on NBC. As a matter of fact, the Warren Commission's inquiry into the assassination started off with a completely unacceptable philosophy for a democracy like ours. One of its stated objectives was to calm the fears of the people about a conspiracy. But in our country, the government has no right to calm our fears any more than it has, for example, the right to excite our fears about Red China or about fluoridation or about birth control or about anything. There's no room in America for thought control of any kind, no matter how benevolent the objective. Personally, I don't want to be calm about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I don't want to be calm about a president of my country being shot down in the streets. And I don't want to be calm about the fact that for reasons of public policy or national security or any other phony reason, the true facts have been withheld from the people of this country. If the day has come when it is possible to shoot our president down because some men disagree with his foreign policy, and the day has come that the moment his heart stops beating, other considerations take over which conceal the total truth from the citizens of the United States, then the day has come when we have ceased to be a democracy. I cannot believe that this is so, that the time has come in America when the people no longer control their country. Yet I must confess that I'm appalled by the readiness with which some of the major press media have accepted the great fairy tale without hesitation, rousing from their stupor only when they have learned that a district attorney was violating all the rules of etiquette and digging up the truth. They're telling you that black is white when they tell you there is no evidence of a conspiracy. They have to know well the significance of the continued concealment of X-rays and autopsy pictures, which, if revealed to you, would show that the president was hit by rifle fire from more than one direction. And they have to know well of the hundreds of documents which remain classified secret and concealed from your view. And they're making white black when they repeatedly state that my office is using improper methods. They have to know that no DA's office in the United States would dream of operating in the way they suggest. They have to know that for years I have been a strong defender of the rights of individuals. They have to know all of this, but they have lent themselves to the all-out effort to convince you that the matter's been looked into, and anyone who raises a question now is irresponsible or a troublemaker or an enemy of the people. What's that? You say that you are an American citizen and you want to see the autopsy X-rays and you want to see these hundreds of documents that have been withheld from your view, and you want to know why these vital notes always ended up being burned? What's the matter with you? Can't you take the word of these honorable men who've looked into it for you? Let me just give you one example that shows you how impossible the single assassination theory is, which shows you the enormity of the fairy tale which you're supposed to believe in. Now, this is the Warren Commission's own diagram of the route of the bullet through Governor Connally. The bullet had to take this route in order to cause the injuries which he received. Now, the important thing to keep in mind is that the Warren Commission itself concedes that if this same bullet was not the one which also went through President Kennedy, then there had to be someone else firing. And the reason for that, just to put it very simply, is the Zapruder films have shown that all the firing occurred in 6 seconds, and yet there were a total of 8 wounds. Therefore, this one bullet has to cause 7 wounds, because one missed and one was the fatal shot hitting the president. So, by the Warren Commission's own admission, prior to hitting the governor, this bullet had to go through President Kennedy, who's sitting back here. Now, you'll notice that the Warren Commission did not attempt to include President Kennedy in the diagram. They could not, because the total impossibility of this bullet having gone through the president also would be too obvious. In other words, by the evidence of the Warren Commission itself, it is obvious that there was other shooting going on in Dealey Plaza. Consequently, the Warren Commission has officially concluded that before this bullet came down from the sky, as it had to hit Governor Connally and all those different places, it entered President Kennedy's body from the rear and came out of his neck. I might add that the Warren Commission did not try to include the president's picture because that would have shown that the course of the magic bullet would have had to gone up in the air and come down again in order to end up hitting the governor. It is by selecting these little portions of each incident and by excluding other portions that the fairy tale is presented to you. However, if they had to show in one diagram the bullet entering the president and then continuing through Governor Connally, you would be able to see the total impossibility of this bullet causing 7 wounds. Now, this is just one of many examples which show that the Warren Commission's conclusion is completely impossible. Bullet 399 is another example. The fact that the cartridges in the Tippit case do not match at all the bullets in Tippit's body, one after the other. If I had the total hour to reply, which NBC used to try and discredit my office, I would be able to go into more matters. But let's sum it up by saying that it is completely impossible to uphold the single assassin theory if you look at it seriously. Anyone who has done their homework knows that the single assassin theory is totally impossible. In the final analysis, what has been done by the Warren Commission in its investigation is to take this series of implausibilities and to attempt to prove to you that each one of them is at least mathematically possible. Each one of them is mathematically possible, but not probable. However, it is not mathematically possible for all of these series of implausibilities to have occurred. And this is what they ask you to believe. It's very much like telling you that it is mathematically possible, for example, for an elephant to hang from a cliff with his tail tied to a daisy. Of course, this is implausible. But what do? They produce an expert who says, yes, I have made a study of the situation, and this is not a full-grown elephant, and this is a particularly tough kind of daisy, and therefore it was mathematically possible. Now, the official truth, as a result of such expert testimony, as a result of the creation of a series of mathematical possibilities, is now no longer what actually happened in Dallas, but what has been officially approved. Well, I say that the matter is not closed, not in this country. I say that the day has not yet arrived when the only reality is power, and the ideals on which our country was built are merely words printed on paper. I believe that those news agencies which have sought to imply that I would use improper methods to gain some sort of fictional political advantage have simply revealed their own cynicism. I believe that in this conflict between truth and power, and this is exactly what it is all about, that power cannot possibly smash truth out of existence. The people in this country will not let that happen. If we still live in the same country in which we were born, and I don't think it's changed that much, if this is still the country in which, in the words of our Pledge of Allegiance, there exists liberty and justice for all, then this attempt to conceal the full truth from you, in the end, has to be a failure. Now, in this case, I've learned more about the human race than I really wanted to know. And I've learned more about some of our government agencies than I really wanted to know. And I've learned more about some of our press agencies than I cared to know. But I am still naive enough to believe that in America, the people make the decisions, not a handful of men in the Washington and New York areas. And I believe that the people of America want to know the entire truth about how their president was shot down in the streets of Dallas. And I want to assure you that as long as I am alive, no one is going to stop me from seeing that you obtain the full truth, and nothing less than the full truth, and no fairy tales.
Time for the preceding program was made available to District Attorney Jim Garrison of New Orleans. The program was prepared under his sole supervision. It constitutes his reply to an earlier NBC News program examining some of the methods Mr. Garrison has used in his investigation of the assassination of President Kennedy. This program originated in the studios of WDSU-TV in New Orleans.